Well, here we are. We're back. Good little time off there. A few days after 1 week's worth of podcasting, 7 days straight there. So here we are. Welcome to the Colonel and the Kid podcast. I'm your host, Greg Heitmann. And this podcast, for any of those new to the podcast anyway, this is a podcast dedicated to my grandfather, Lieutenant Colonel Edwin P. Hagen Jr. is my mom's dad, so my maternal grandfather. And what I've done here is I wrote a memoir about my grandfather. It's basically a memoir about my relationship with him. And I guess I just wanted to document how special a relationship that was. And then it turned out to be somewhat of some psychotherapy for me too. I say psychotherapy, like not in the sense that it was correcting something that's wrong with me. I don't know if that's the proper terminology. Just more of analyzing myself and more of an introspective look at my life so far. I'm probably on the downhill side, I guess. Going to be 57 here in a couple of weeks. 57 years old doesn't seem possible, but anyway, that's a little bit of the background on the origin of the podcast, based on the memoir, The Colonel and the Kid. And of course, I'm the kid, and my grandpa was the colonel. And so far, we're 28 episodes into the podcast on as far as the Colonel and the Kid portion of it. And it's today's the 29th episode of the actual Colonel and the Kid podcast part. So it's chapter 29, and this one's called The West River Deer Hunting. And we'll get to that in just a moment. But I just wanted to talk a little bit more about Grandpa and how we got to where we are. We're, like I said, this will be chapter 29, and we're looking at really, I think I'm shooting for 60 chapters, and what we're going to have is 3 volumes, 20 chapters each. So I already did the first 20 chapters, and that was the season 1 of the podcast and volume 1 of the memoir. And now we're in volume 2 of the memoir. And this is coincidentally season 2 of the podcast. So I've had a few one-off podcasts here and there, just about mostly about the NFL with my brother Garrett and his son AJ, my nephew. But today we're back to the regular podcast. And again, this is the West River Deer Hunting. So just about halfway through the whole thing right now. It's hard to believe. I'm wondering out loud now if I'm going to get through this whole memoir in the year 2026. Finish it up. That'd be something. Really be something, because I haven't even finished all the chapters yet. So it's a nice goal I can lay out there and not fully commit to, should I say, at this point. I'm hesitant to commit because I got a lot of other irons in the fire, so to speak. And I say that sort of facetiously. I'm retired now officially, so there's a lot of stuff I don't have to do, and I can do what I want. Hopefully the desire to finish this up will prioritize it, and we'll get this thing finished out and in the record and go from there. I imagine what I envisioned anyways, I'll still probably do some podcasts, and I'll probably go back and relook at some of the stuff I've done and maybe have some guests on to talk about, that if they read it and maybe they can ask me questions about it, or maybe I can fill in some gaps or just expand on the discussion. That's what I sort of envision. We'll see if it happens. I do have some more writing I want to do. I think I've already committed to try to finish up the Charlie LeBeau mystery series. And you can see in the background, if you're watching this, I'm pointing to the big Cooley poster I finally found and have that up on the wall now. And I would hold up the book, but I had the book here someplace, and now I've misplaced it. I can't find it, and all my junk laying around here in the studio. I did some organization, and apparently I organized that book out of existence in this room because I I looked around. I probably spent 10, 15 minutes looking around different parts of the studio, and then in the living room, in the back room, trying to think, well, did I move it someplace that I would keep it conspicuous so I could see it just at a glance? And nope. I think I just have too many things, too many stacks of papers and magazines I need to really get cleaned up. I did make a lot of progress cleaning up this area. Maybe it doesn't look like behind me because I have so much clutter back there, including stuff on the walls hanging there. Um, it always amazes me just to look behind me as I look at the screen here and I can see myself in reverse. And I should mention that I am wearing the hat. This is the podcast hat. It's become the podcast hat. And I hesitated today because I did get a haircut. So I was thinking maybe I should show off my haircut, but I thought, no, let's get the podcast hat out. This is such a cool cap. It's like a cowboy hat, custom made from, again, I'll point to the O'Farrell Hat Company here in Santa Fe. And I won this hat. And I think I'm going to see if I can put it on display coming up here in the near future, because they have the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation Santa Fe banquet coming up the end of February. I got to buy some tickets, and Angela and I will go to that, I think. And I'll wear my hat advertising for O'Farrell Hat Company. Maybe they can mention that I'm in the crowd as a former winner of one of the raffles that they have. I first need to check out and see if if they do have that, still have that raffle, if they are a sponsor. I'll put my name in again, see if we can win another hat. And maybe Angela wants her own custom hat. If not, I will just get another hat custom made for me. Anyway, talked enough about that. So let's get into the actual chapter. Again, this week's chapter is the West River deer hunting. So here we go. Chapter 29, the West River deer hunting. And as always, we start off with a little quote. Quote, "Hunting offers me total freedom to do exactly what I want to do and make my own decisions in a world untrammeled by the chaos of society." End quote. And that's Jim Zumbo, Outdoor Life writer/editor. And just a quick, I guess, just a quick dashing statement there about hunting in general. I thought it appropriate to start off this chapter about deer hunting. Grandpa had a regular group of hunting buddies that made an annual trip to northwest South Dakota to hunt mule deer. West River refers to the area west of the Missouri River, the river that cuts the state of South Dakota in half. You end up with a totally different environment for deer hunting and different species of deer, West River. The mule deer with their big ears and forking antlers, West River, and whitetail deer with their forward sweeping beamed antlers, East River. Out in western South Dakota, you have prairie, a seemingly endless expanse of grass, draws or drainages, as we would call them. Others might call them little valleys. To my eyes, West River will always be big. Rounded, rolling hills with smaller side draws feeding into bigger, sometimes woody draws with scraggly trees or shrubs here or there. In contrasting sparsely populated western South Dakota with eastern South Dakota, East River has numerous farmsteads and highly defined square sections of mostly cropland, shelter belts, and scattered pastures. The pastures are islands among the tillable acres, where West River, it is just the opposite. And we have the first photo of the chapter here. And this is a little longer chapter, several photos too. But I'll read the caption and then talk about this photo. The caption reads, "Photo of a couple of Grandpa's mule deer racks. The antlers with the red tag are from 1965. So this is a photo I took probably in the last 5 years, let's say, 3 to 5 years. And what it is, it's just it's two sets of antlers, and they're leaning up against the um, shed in my mom's backyard. And this is, before we got her moved out of the house, sold the house, and moved to Aberdeen. But these antlers came from Grandpa's garage, and yeah, I think they were hanging in the garage of his house, just outside Siston, South Dakota, for many, many years. And somehow my mom ended up with them. They ended up in that shed, small shed, little tool shed with the lawnmowers parked and stuff in the backyard for many years after Grandma and Grandpa moved out of their country house. So they sat there, and I took possession of them after after my mom sold the house and moved out of Groton. And now they're here in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And they're just one's a little a 3x5, nice little set of antlers put onto a plaque. It's still got the fur on the skull cap of the antlers, and it's got a little red tag on it, and a little I don't know what that is. I guess hexagonal shaped plaque. And the other set of antlers is looks like a 3x4 set of antlers. They're both mule deer, and they're just leaning up against the brown and white shed in the backyard, and grass is looks kind of brown green there. So I don't know. I'm not sure if that was getting towards the fall. There's a big bare spot on the grass there. It's all just bare dirt, bare soil. And it looks like there was standing water there for a while. Now it's dried up, and it's got that cracked look of a dried up little pond, little puddle, I guess. And then I have another photo here, and I'll read the caption and describe. Detail the 1965 West River mule deer taken by Grandpa. And this is the red tag. This is a close-up of the red tag of the previous photo. And it says, I'll read the tag. And it says on there, South Dakota resident big game tag. And it's got on the side, smaller print. And then there's a bigger number. It must be the license number on there. 38103. 65. This tag is to be attached by means of the metal locking seal to big game animal at the time such big game animal is brought into any hunting camp, dwelling, farmyard, or other place of abode of any kind occupied overnight, or in the event such big game animal is brought out to a road than before. The same is placed upon or in any vehicle of any kind. This tag authorizes the shipment or transportation of a legally taken big game animal to any point within or without the state. I certify that this big game animal was legally taken by me in accordance with current regulations. And it's got a date, and I can't read it. And then a signature line. You can't read the signature anymore. And it says, this tag is not transferable. So that tag is still affixed to that set of antlers. And that is 61 years ago now. So pretty crazy. Anyway, back to the chapter. One story I can recall Grandpa sharing of his mule deer hunts was how he and Richard were walking along a draw. Grandpa was a bit higher up, with Richard more in some woody brush. In the push up the draw, Grandpa heard Richard call out, "There's a buck right here." "Shoot him," Grandpa yelled down. "I can't, he's too close. All I can see is fur when I look through the scope," Richard yelled back. It wasn't long before the commotion of the conversation was enough to cause the deer to bolt. He was one lucky deer. He got away unscathed with enough cover to prevent any shots on the run. And we have another photo. And I'll read the caption, then describe. Richard Hansen with the South Dakota West River mule deer circa 1962. And it's got Richard Hansen, that's Grandpa's brother-in-law. And he's kneeling down, and in the foreground, there's a mule deer doe. And Richard's he's kneeling down, leaning against his rifle. He's just got like some brown hunting canvas pants on and like a blue sweatshirt. And he's got binoculars strapped carried around his neck. And he's got like a brown hunting cap. And he's just kneeling down there in the side hill. It looks like just some brown grass and some, I don't know, miscellaneous other weeds and stuff. Thin grass and the blue sky in the background. Really nothing. There's a car on the right side of the photo, and that's their hunting vehicle. You can see at least one spare tire there sitting in the trunk. Trunk is open. It's a nice clear photo. I'm sure Grandpa took that. And he's kind of downhill, looking uphill at Richard. Richard's got a big smile on his face there. It's a good photo. Most of all, I can remember Grandpa's inflection in his voice as he played both parts of the conversation with Richard as he recounted the story. Grandpa told it with a big, infectious smile on his face. I couldn't help but laugh and smile to myself. That's a story that sticks with a person. It was a purely joyful experience that Grandpa took away from that hunt. It might even be a more interesting story that the deer escaped. Here I am almost 50 years after the actual events, smiling as I type the story. And now I add parenthetically, read it aloud into the video and audio record. And then we have another photo. And I'm not sure that this isn't the same deer. And this is a photo of Grandpa, the Colonel. And I'll read the caption and then describe. Grandpa with a South Dakota West River mule deer. Note the beautiful wide open prairie in the background, circa 1962. I think I count 3 spare tires in the trunk. It's rough country with no amenities. Best to be prepared. And it's Grandpa, and he's got his U.S. Army jacket on there, and just some tan hunting canvas pants there, brown boots, and he's standing there behind the deer, and he's kind of the vehicle's right in back of him. The trunk is propped open. Grandpa's holding his rifle, scoped rifle. I don't know which rifle that was, but he's got, like I said, looks like he's got a gray sweatshirt underneath his U.S. Army jacket, and he's got I don't know if that's supposed to be the red. Maybe it's the early blaze orange cap he's wearing. But this is a special photograph because Grandpa's smiling. Looked like he's really enjoying himself there. And I'm guessing it's probably Richard Hansen, his brother-in-law, took the photo at this point. Nice photo. There's just nothing but grass and hills and blue sky. There's no farms, no power poles, nothing in the background. It's an old car. I wonder what that car is. It's probably like a 1950s, early 1950s vehicle. I could probably take a Google photo and see if I could figure out what that was. Don't have a very good view of much of it because the trunk is propped open. And most interestingly to me too in this photo is that they have like a box up on top of the vehicle. I'm not sure if it's like a homemade, custom constructed box, and there's at least a couple deer that they've already got loaded up on the top of the vehicle. And they're just out in the middle of the prairie, someplace out in western South Dakota. Back to the chapter. The other story I can remember from Grandpa's mule deer hunts out in western South Dakota was a success story. It was really windy, and Grandpa decided to scale a butte just to see what might be up on top and see what he could see. Well, he made it up to the flat top of the mesa, and sure enough, the wind was enough to cover his approach. as well as keep the scent from reaching a nice buck bedded down in the thin grass atop the butte. Grandpa harvested that buck, and it was a nice downhill drag to the truck. I think I have a photo of that deer's rack. It might be the 1965 rack shown earlier in this chapter with that red tag. And we have another photo here. And I'll read the caption and try to describe. And it says, circa 1960, Grandpa's hunting party taking a break and enjoying a beautiful West River day. It's like 4 guys, and I don't know who they are, except one of the guys is Richard Hansen, Grandpa's brother-in-law. But the other 3, I don't know. And they're just standing there. The guy on the left is leaning up against the front of an old pickup. Not sure what kind of pickup that is. Looks like maybe a Ford, but it's, probably like a 1950s truck. And he's got his right foot up on the bumper, and as he's looking towards the camera, he's just standing on one leg, and he's holding a can of something. Looks like he's drinking a soda or something. And then next in line is Richard, and he's got I'm not sure if it's the way the film has, I don't know, just cooked and diminished the coloring properly, but it looks like a red sweatshirt. They all look like they have red tops, but I'm not sure if that's just the way that the color hues have changed over time. But Richard's got he's leaning on the guy to his left. He's got his left arm on top of the guy's right shoulder, and Richard's right hand has got like his thumb in his pocket there, wearing a sweatshirt with blue jeans, and he's got the binoculars still around his neck. And the other guy, the guy to Richard's left that he's leaning on, he kind of looks like Vince Lombardi. That's a good description, because he's got that old style cap on from like the 1950s, 1960s newspaper reporter or something. And he's got some tan pants. He's got both his hands in his pocket. Maybe it's a little cooler than it looks. You got tan pants and like a gray sweatshirt, maybe. And then the guy in the far right of the photo, to the left of the Vince Lombardi looking guy, he's got an old cap, baseball style cap, and he's got a zip up sweatshirt. I don't know if he's holding a cup of coffee or something in his hand, and he's really smiling, looking at the camera, trying to make some smart aleck remark, I guess, to Grandpa. I'm assuming Grandpa's taking the picture, and it's just out in the prairie. It's not the best photo. I think there's been some color damage to their, at least their clothing anyway. It seems like it's just not quite right. I mean, it's just overexposed. Can't really see the grass too well, but still an interesting photo. And then another photo here, I say circa 1962. This is a different vehicle, though, but this seems like it's got the same custom box up on top of the vehicle. And I'll read the caption here real quick. Circa 1962, Grandpa's hunting party bringing home the venison. This is a lot better, a lot clearer photo. And we got 3 guys standing there in front of a car. So it's like a station wagon vehicle with that box, the deer box up on top. It looks like there's 3 deer, 3 does, it looks like. And they might be whitetails, actually. They got their feet sticking up. They're all loaded up in that box. And then there's 3 guys. And from the left of the photos you're looking at, there's a guy who's got his blaze orange cap and blaze orange sweatshirt, blue jeans. And I don't know who that guy is. And then the guy in the middle, that might be the guy that kind of looks like Vince Lombardi, but he's wearing a blaze orange cap, and he's got like more of an upland game hunting jacket on with a little patch there for your pad for your shoulder and your rifle, and some brown pants. And it looks like Richard's got his like Jones style hunting cap. He's leaning on the front fender of the hood there, kind of half smiling, I guess, kind of like shading their eyes a little bit from the sun. He's got like a dirty blue jacket on. It looks like he's wearing just like coveralls. A little cooler. He's got some black gloves on. They all got gloves on. Must have been a little cooler day. And they had vehicles, probably like a early 50s station wagon of some kind. Let's call it a DeSoto. And then you can look at the video, look at the YouTube video that this is recording on too, if you're watching. And I'll add these photos into the into the YouTube production after I'm done here. But it's a cool photo. A lot more clear than the previous one. But back to the chapter. As time wore on and the men aged, eventually the group disbanded. But not before Grady, my older brother, joined in on one of the last outings as a group. And I got a couple of photos, 3 photos here that we'll discuss real quick. I'll read the caption. The first 2 smaller photos, and there's one on the bottom too. Photos of Grady deer hunting out West River with Grandpa and Richard. Grandpa photographs Grady and Richard enjoying some downtime in the rented trailer house circa 1989. So this is a picture of Grady. The one upper left picture, there's 2 pictures, 2 smaller pictures, one on the left and one on the right. And I'll describe the one on the left here. And it's Grady. He's all smiling for the camera. He's got some old, just beat up cowboy hat he must have found in the trailer. And he's got some old guitar. I don't know if there's any strings on that guitar. Looks like maybe there's at least a couple. He's got his blue, like a blue plaid shirt on, blue jeans and big bottle of whiskey sitting on the table in front of him as he's looking towards the camera. And then the other picture, just a smaller picture to the right, you can see Grady's kind of must be laughing, caught him laughing at something. He's holding the guitar still. I'm sure that guitar was at the trailer because I'm pretty sure Grady doesn't know how to play guitar and he doesn't own a guitar. And then to Grady's right is Richard sitting kind of behind him. He's got a plaid shirt on and he's got a pen in his pocket. I don't know, for taking notes. I don't know, maybe they're playing cards or something. And he's got a baseball cap on that's all cocked askew on his head. And probably the result of the big bottle of whiskey that's on the table there. And it's just inside the trailer that they apparently rented for hunting for that week or whatever it was. And got some old school wood paneling on the sides, and it actually has curtains in the trailer, so that's good. It's something. And then the bigger picture below is, I'll read the caption and describe. Grady enjoying the company of a ranch cat at the rental trailer with Grandpa as photographer during their West River deer hunt in Perkins County, South Dakota, circa 1990. So Grady's sitting on the step of the trailer, and it's old, looks like an old trailer house. And Grady's holding this cat on his lap and just holding it up for the camera, I guess, to be able to see it get photographed. And it's just this old metal trailer with a little custom made little entryway, I guess, to and little custom made steps there to get into the trailer. It's your typical old style single wide trailer out there in the middle of the prairie, and there's weeds growing up all around it, like probably 2 or 3 foot tall weeds. And there's a little trail trampled up to the steps. But great photo for indicating the roughing it for the West River deer hunts. So back to the chapter. Grady and Grandpa reorganized, and based on Grandpa's stash of maps, ranchers' contacts, and deer tags for Perkins County, a new generation of West River deer hunting tradition started. A new dynamic duo of Grady and Grandpa reinitiated efforts to head west, seeking the awesome mule deer. These 2 hunters even ended up with new rifles chambered in a bit of a niche round, Remington 6mm, a cartridge similar to the .243 Winchester. This was a sort of fashionable cartridge for a while. Like I mentioned previously, Grandpa liked to keep up with the latest technology. And what could be a better reason to buy a new rifle than try out a fancy new ammunition hot off the manufacturing lines, as well as hot off the outdoor magazine press? So here's another photo, and this is the photo of Grandpa Hagen's. I'll read the caption here. This is Grandpa Hagen's rifle. Photo of the Remington 6mm rifle model 7400 that Grandpa used at the end of his deer hunting career. So it's just it's got some nice wood on it. 6mm. It's a semi-automatic rifle, scope on it, Bushnell scope. And this is the rifle that I used to hunt for my first few years. I don't know, first couple years of deer hunting. Grandpa let me use that rifle. And now I think I kind of ended up with it, and I think I just basically turned it over to Grady and said that when I did, because I had bought a new deer hunting rifle and outfit in 1999, and so I just said, "Hey, if Caitlin wants to shoot this rifle, go ahead, she can have it," and left it over there with Grady at his ranch. It's a really nice rifle. If that rifle could talk, it would probably tell some good tales. But back to the chapter. I have to admit that I was a little jealous of Grady being able to take a few days off from studies at South Dakota State University and head west with Grandpa in Grandpa's pickup, the Bomber, before it was the Bomber. I was also at SDSU and didn't dare miss any engineering classes, not that I was even invited to go hunting with them. I don't know but a few stories of the adventures Grady had out west with Grandpa over those few years. The last of the 1980s into the first couple years of the 1990s. The one I can recall is sort of a melancholy story at best. He and Grandpa were driving down a gravel road after getting permission to hunt from a rancher. Not far from the ranch house, at the bottom of a dip in the driveway, where the draw crossed through a culvert under the gravel road, they spotted a deer. Exiting the Bomber, they both managed to get multiple shots at a nice whitetail in the woody draw. Just to clarify, western South Dakota supports both a population of mule deer and whitetail deer. It's not uncommon to come across either deer species during a full day of hunting. That whitetail deer got away, but the hunters had made a mistake. The deer, appearing unscathed, was actually mortally wounded. The hunters never bothered to check and see if they'd hit the deer. Simply walking out a couple 100 yards could have proved a successful hunt. Instead, disappointed, they got back in the truck and continued to hunt. They went home so Grady could return to classes at South Dakota State University for a couple days with the plan to return to hunt the next weekend. They did return to the same area, and as they drove by the draw where they had fired on the deer, they discussed the idea that maybe the buck was hit. They stopped and looked around, eventually finding the deer's partially eaten carcass. They recovered the antlers, filling one of their tags, but getting no venison from that deer. And they ended up being shut out for the rest of the season. It's a good lesson for every hunter to follow up on a shot. Even if you think you missed, a visual check of the area for blood or other sign of a hit might save you regret and nagging doubts later. A nice surprising twist to the story is the fact that the buck they have the souvenir antlers for from out west is actually a whitetail, a nice whitetail, and not a muley. And here's another photo. Grady's and Grandpa's West River, Perkins County, South Dakota buck from 1989. The antlers hang in Grady's entry to his house at his ranch in Falk County, South Dakota. So this is a nice photo with, you can see it's hanging on the wall there, just above a coat rack. And you can see there's a nice set of Texas Longhorns, actual Longhorns hanging on the wall there too, next to it in their entryway. And it's a nice whitetail, very symmetrical. Got like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 on one side, and maybe 5 on the other side. The 7 are suspect. Some are smaller points on the main beam as they come across out front. And they don't just about touch, but they come all the way curling around to the front. Real nice, beautiful, very symmetrical rack. Nice dark colored. Then there's a detail of that on the plaque they're mounted on. Grandpa had a little bronze, just a piece of bronze colored metal engraved on it. And I'll read the caption here and then describe it. Detail photo of the whitetail antlers plaque from the photo above. The engraved brass plate on the plaque reads, "A whitetail hunt to remember. Grady and Grandpa, Perkins County, 1989." And it says whitetail because it was a whitetail deer, white. But this is white, T-A-L-E, like story or tale, fairy tale. So it's pretty cool that Grandpa took those antlers and had them mounted and given to Grady for souvenir for that. And I do add it parenthetically that this story that that I wrote in here, I think is just not quite accurate. I believe Grady corrected me on this, and hopefully this is more more true to the story than what I wrote. I don't know how I think maybe I had it mixed up in my mind when I wrote it, and I've never corrected it. I should maybe correct it actually for the written published volume. But I think what happened was that Grady and Grandpa shot at the deer, and they went over to check and see if they'd found if there was any blood or if they hit it or anything. And they ended up finding this deer that had been, shot by somebody else or had died, and they were able to reclaim the antlers and put their tag, use their tag on those antlers that they recovered. And I think I've erroneously said that they shot at the deer, never checked, and then a few days later they went back and had nagging doubts or whatever, and they went and looked and they found this deer that somebody had hit. So I think I have the story wrong, and I'll try to get that corrected for the actual Kindle publication and any other books that I write or publish hard copies for. So very interesting though to me, and a very nice set of antlers, souvenir antlers. But back to the chapter. A few years later, Grady and I applied for Perkins County tags and hunted the public national grasslands with marginal success. On one of those trips, the weather turned nasty and we bugged out early with the idea to swing by Pier and see if we could get some low-flying geese in the crazy wind in the late afternoon. Before we got out of the snow in Perkins County, he did fill a doe tag that he had with a nice muley doe. We didn't get any geese that day along Lake Oahe behind the Oahe Dam on the Missouri River, but we did fill both our limits of greenheads. It was an amazing hunt, and I have one of my favorite hunting pictures of all time from that hunt. And we have that hunt picture of that hunt right here. So I'll read the caption and describe. 10 mallards on the tailgate and a mule deer in the bed of the truck on a November day in 1996. This is taken near Pierre, South Dakota, the capital, and it's got 10 nice Drake greenheads on the tailgate. And in the bed of the truck, you can see the mule deer doe the Grady had tagged earlier that day. And this is his red Dodge pickup. And got a bright red cooler with a white top on there. Some sodas in it, I'm sure, some Cokes. And this is just, it's really cool photo to me. I don't know. It's just amazing to see that. And I remember, I think we at least lost one, maybe two nice greenheads that day. But we did each fill our limit with all drakes and no hens. And the ducks, it was so windy. They were coming up off the water, up onto the bluff. And it was just so windy. You could shoot once and they'd flare so bad in the wind. There's no way you could even get a second shot. So it was like all these flocks of ducks are coming up, flock after flock, probably, not huge flocks, probably like 20, 30 ducks in each flock, and pick out one. They were just barely, probably 15, 20 yards, 25 yards off the ground, try to fight that wind to come up. And we got all these ducks and lined them up and took a photo. And it was so dark and dull gray that day that the photo is not that clear because it was that, it wasn't an automatic camera back in those days. It was just, you had to focus it and get the light aperture setting right and everything. So I think the exposure time was so long that I think I wasn't holding still enough taking the photo It needed to be on a tripod to have it perfectly still to get it that crisp photo, but it's still pretty cool. Got their that yellow bill, matte colored yellow bill of the mallard drake, and the dark green head and the dark chestnut, and you can see the white ring around their neck from the mallards, and see some of their bright orange feet. It's just striking. And I remember talking to my boss at work. I worked for Bureau of Indian Affairs branch of roads, and showed him this picture, and basically accused us of shooting some hen mallards and just ditching them, and taking all the drakes. And it just surprised me that he would say something like that. It's like, especially since that never happened, because we were able to get all these nice greenheads out, pick them out, and it's like, yeah, you never got one hen, huh? Very, very suspicious, and kind of offended me. But I laugh about it now because I know what happened. It's a little bit of snow on the ground too in this picture, because the weather had been changing and the front was coming through, and it was causing it to be so windy. Just amazing. Wasn't that cold though, if I remember correctly. But pretty awesome. Oh, finish up the chapter here. Grady spent a couple years in Pierre working on his job with the Natural Resources Conservation Service, the NRCS. His work in the area gave him some great familiarity with the Fort Pierre National Grasslands. We started a long tradition of hunting for mule deer, the West River, harvesting some nice bucks in that time. I even hunted it as a non-resident up until 2008 on the grasslands looking for a nice trophy muley buck. It's been many years since I applied to hunt in that area, but I look forward to that opportunity in the future as I slowly creep towards retirement. I don't think I ever thanked Grandpa for getting me turned on to deer hunting. It is a shame that I couldn't thank him for something that has filled my life with so much joy and memories that I will cherish forever. And as always, we close the chapter with a quote. Quote, "Hunt in every jungle, for there is wisdom and good hunting in all of them." End quote. And that's an African proverb. And I'll just make a comment on the end of this chapter. Talked about hunting in the West River, Fort Pierre National Grasslands, just outside of Pierre, South Dakota, the West River side. And I'm going to start applying for that license again out there. And I'll probably be able to fill up some um, other chapters about a couple hunts that I enjoyed hunting out there in later years in the 2000s, I guess. And it's just it's really beautiful, beautiful country. Somewhat desolate, but so close to, it's probably 30 miles from Pierre, but it just seems like you're just a million miles away from civilization most of the time out there. It's just amazing. So I really enjoyed that. And I'll try to get some chapters written about that for the extended volumes, future volumes of the Colonel and the Kid memoir. And got some nice pictures of successful hunts out there too. Pretty cool. Anyway, that's it. That's the end of the chapter. Chapter 29, the West River Deer Hunting from the Colonel and the Kid memoir. And you're listening to the Colonel and Kid podcast. What else we got? We're 44 minutes in. Do have a couple things I could talk about. Just look outside real quick. It sounds like it's raining pretty good. We need some rain too, but I was thinking I should have put my rain barrel out, had them emptied out, and I think it's been warm enough. I'm going to see if I can put them back out and not worry about them freezing and wrecking the bottom of the barrel. Just put them. I got one set out, but I forgot to put the other one back out the other side of the house. So as soon as I'm done with this podcast, I'm going to rush out there and get those rain barrels set up. But I did want to have a couple comments on stuff that been bugging me. And one of them was based on a little bit about I think I talked about it with previous podcasts where I'd discussed Tony Tony Kornheiser podcast, Tony Kornheiser show. I listened to that podcast. Never miss it. I always listen to it, and I just I have to comment on um Tony Kornheiser had Jason La Canfora on the Monday after the Super Bowl just to summarize the end of the season and discuss things. And I think I mentioned before that Jason La Canfora was former Washington Post writer and CBS Sports commentator and friends with Tony Kornheiser, co-worker with Tony Kornheiser when they worked at Washington Post together. Jason La Canfora comes on and just really touting his liberal, you know, viewpoints, I should say, just spewing the liberal ideas he has. It's just hilarious to me. And I think I talked about where Tony Kornheiser is pretty much very careful about having politics on his show. He doesn't want to have split off half his potential listeners just because of some political stuff. And we're very divided in this country, but it's just hilarious to me and how, I think I mentioned has Jason La Canfora's Trump derangement syndrome. Jason is claiming that Trump has shut down the Washington Post. It's like, oh, my word, just crazy. But he was railing on this particular podcast, but the NFL's, very racist, very racist. There's a lawsuit going on with Brian Flores' lawsuit against the NFL for discrimination in hiring. And I heard today that his court case is advancing and it's going to be argued in open court about discrimination against Brian Flores by the NFL. And there's two other coaches that joined it. Steve Wilkes, former head coach at the Arizona Cardinals, and another coach. I don't think he's ever head coach, but a coach at least at Green Bay, I think, at some point. It was Ray Horton. So these three guys have filed lawsuit claiming discrimination against the NFL. But Jason La Canfora was saying how racist the NFL is and all the owners are racist and everything. It's like amazing to me that he can just spew that stuff without any repercussion. Just amazing. So they're going to get their day in court. And it'll be interesting to see if there is some actual damages or actual validation by a jury or a judge and jury say that their NFL is racist and discriminatory against these African-American head coaches that supposedly get short end of the stick. And I was just wondering, well, maybe Brian Flores is just a jerk. I don't know. He got fired. He was head coach at Miami and apparently tried to get another head coaching job, couldn't. But he's he's not head coach, but he's the head of the defensive coordinator for the Minnesota Vikings right now. Probably getting paid about, I think I heard it was $6 million a year. I would love to be discriminated so much that I get $6 million a year as a paying job. That'd be awesome. So I'm not sure how that's going to play out, but I think there's a real sense of a real reported story of discrimination in the NFL, that there's not enough black head coaches and black assistant coaches, whatever it is. And I think it's such a false sense of reality for people, that they think that everything needs to fall on these percentile lines of how jobs should be handed out, whether it's NFL coaching or whether it's teaching, college professors, whatever it is, CEOs for corporate jobs for the S&P 500 companies, that they should somehow be aligned with the way the percent of population reflects. And I think this is completely lost in it. It's sort of the idea, maybe I've talked about it before, about the meritocracy that we should be that should be in place, but it's not. It hasn't been recently because of all this the wokeism where people think that everyone's discriminated against and racist, and we have to have all this stuff, equity and equality. So you try to make everyone the same, and no one's the same. Everyone's different. So maybe there's just not enough candidates for not enough African American candidates for head coaching jobs. I don't know how many there currently are in the NFL. There's only 32 jobs in the whole world that are NFL head coaches. And I know that there are some out there, but that doesn't mean you should have, whatever the African American population of this country is, 12%. So 12% of the head coaches, not one more, not one less. It's so ridiculous that people lose sight of of what sports is all about, and it's merit. I mean, let's jump to a different sport. The National Basketball Association, the NBA. Do you think that that's based on meritocracy or not? I mean, the pretty much I would say it's what between 70 and 80% are African American players in that league. And you think it should be that we should just have the same percentage to reflect society? Only 12% African American, 65% white, and then whatever else, 3% Asian. I don't know. I guess that's kind of what we're talking about. It seems like in a lot of cases where people just think that that's the way it should be. Oh, maybe they should have half population is women, so we should have 50% women on the football teams or basketball teams. I guess to me, it just becomes this ridiculous philosophical argument about how things should be versus the way they are. And it bugs me. It just really bugs me that we've become a country that even argues about that, of how people's feelings should be reflected in the way that somebody's hired or is included into something. I don't know. It's really bothersome that we've reached that point in our society, and now it's sort of like you know I'm flip flopping back between basketball and football here, but you have the WNBA, which is totally subsidized by the NBA. It's women's basketball, and it's just not popular in the sense that it's when you compare it relative to the NBA, the men's side, people want to see the men play. That's just the way it is. They're just more athletic, I guess if you want to call it that. Jump higher, further, more refined dexterity. I mean, that's typical of men versus women for the most part, and it's reflected in the actual business model of consumption and how that people will provide patronage for what they want to see, and they'll pay for what they want to see versus they'll ignore what they don't want to see. Yet it's being forced upon the public as if they're the same. And I think that the WNBA is going to go on strike. I think from the player personnel side, the player side, where they don't think they're getting paid enough money. You're getting paid a subsidy by the NBA to play to begin with. If you were just completely unsubsidized, you'd probably lose money, so you wouldn't even exist because no business person would actually have that going as an endeavor. So I guess it's just their arguments are lost on me as far as wanting to see it or wanting to watch it. I don't even watch the NBA for the most part. I'll watch some here and there just because if there's nothing on TV, you got to have want to, I guess, maybe watch it here once in a while. And sometimes it's entertaining. I mean, just the athletic ability of the NBA player in general is amazing to me. I mean, just the the shooting ability, the jumping ability, everything. That ability is just at its peak human talent. I think. I think they're as far as being in shape and everything. I think that's what they said. The most highest cardiovascular sport is probably NBA basketball. I think of when they comparing like the resting heart rate for all these guys and everything. That they have to be in the best shape of any professional sporting event. I think you might hear a lot of people argue soccer, but I think there's a lot more room for taking it easy when you're on the field of play for that. If you're not in actual play, you can be on one side. If you're a defender, you don't go all the way down. You're not attacking. On the basketball side, you're going all out. I guess hockey, I think they have those because they have line changes where different, the first team, second team just completely come in and go for like hard for 45 seconds to a minute and a half, and they're just exhausted. So they have to all go out, leave the floor. But anyway, I mean, basketball is amazing from on that side of it. But I guess kind of what I'm driving at here too is the way that the NFL is pushing this stuff and they're facing this lawsuit, and now they've gotten into flag football, and flag football is becoming a sanctioned sport, like a sanctioned high school sport in some states. And that's going to be, I mean, forced on the people. Say, well, you got to watch, why aren't you watching women's flag football on TV? If they have professional leagues in the near future, whatever's coming, they're going to have flag football in the Olympics. I mean, Olympics is so far gone as far as I'm concerned that it's just embarrassing that we even have to talk about it. And then they ask for public support, fundraising from just the general public to support our athletes over in wherever they're at. Italy right now with the Winter Olympics, and I could care less. I don't. It's especially the Winter Olympics were such an elite group of people participating in that you have to have so much money to even be involved in it. Speed skating, dancing, ice skating, whatever it is, just, I don't know. It just seems embarrassingly rich. Then you have I guess you have the curling, but I don't think there's a lot of expense with that necessarily as far as you have to have a structure, I guess, a building so you have ice time to be able to do that stuff. I don't have time to watch it. I don't have any desire to see that. Anyway, getting back to the NFL flag football, it's just become just ridiculous to me. I don't want to hear about it. Don't want to have to put up with it. I remember in the old days, they used to have the punt, pass, and kick stuff that was, I guess sort of developing interest in the younger kids. And they used to have the national winners would appear at like the halftime of the conference championships or something like that. And that's just gone by the wayside. I don't even hear about. Maybe they don't even have punt, pass, and kick anymore. I don't know. I think that's one of my first few chapters. I talked about my second place trophy for punt, pass, and kick as an 8-year-old. It had a big effect on me. And now it, I guess, doesn't even exist. Anyway, wrap the NFL for the year. It's so disappointing to me to have such negative stories that go with the end of the year. And that was the Bad Bunny, the Super Bowl halftime entertainment. It was just so pathetic, just unbelievable. How out of touch NFL is with the common man of this country. They put in a Spanish singer from Puerto Rico to dominate the halftime entertainment. Why do they even have it to begin with? I don't even know. Halftime entertainment on Thanksgiving Day now. And I don't know. It's lost on me. I'm just there to watch the football. And it's like rubbing salt in my wound that they have Green Day at the beginning of the pregame Super Bowl stuff. They had Green Day featured for a few minutes, at least. At least I saw a few minutes of it here and there. Why couldn't Green Day do the halftime? They would be awesome. They have the high energy that's rocking alternative rock from the 90s. That'd have been perfect for me. But then I forget, well, the halftime of the Super Bowl is not for me. It's for someone else. Was it for the women? I think that maybe that's what they wanted. They wanted women to tune in. A lot of women like watching the football part too. I mean, that to me is awesome. So I don't know why get down into the weeds of the controversy of Bad Bunny. You know, it was just terrible, terrible show. I don't know any of his songs. I tried to Shazam one of his songs on my phone, and it couldn't identify the song because it was so poorly performed. Apparently, it doesn't come up in the database that they can compare to. So it didn't exist as a song according to Shazam, which which I don't know. That makes sense to me. And finally, I just another slap in the face to the Americans in this country and the Patriots, especially since he's on the Patriots, is Stephon Diggs turning his back to the flag. He didn't kneel down, but he just turned his back. He won't even honor the flag during the national anthem. Turns around, faces the other way as the flag's on the field, and they're sticking the camera in his face. As you know, I don't know why they do that. I don't know why they put the camera on anybody during the playing of the national anthem. Camera should be on the flag, and everyone should be standing at attention and proud that they have a flag to be as a symbol for this country. Be patriotic, especially since the New England Patriots, the team, they're playing in the game. I mean, it's like, what more do you need to say and think about and discuss that the Patriots in their red, white, and blue uniforms are being, honoring the flag, a symbol of America, on a special day once a year. Nope, can't do it. Gonna have Stephon Diggs making a big stink about why he's offended, making literally millions, tens, I don't know, maybe not hundreds of millions, tens of millions of dollars in a sport where he could do that anywhere else in the world. So I don't know, I don't know. I wonder how long we can continue at this pace of disrespect for this country. This may be my swan song for the NFL. I don't think I'm gonna have this dedication to it that I used to after this. Now that I'm retired, I'm gonna be delving into a lot different things, a lot more freedom to do other things. Um, I won't need the distraction on the weekend because I'll be distracted all the time doing my other hobbies and everything else. So it's sort of really was a sad Super Bowl for me. See all the stuff and all the negativity behind it. And on the other sad note is that Sam Darnold, the former Vikings quarterback, went on to win the Super Bowl with the Seattle Seahawks, just rubbing more salt in that wound of the Vikings' bad decision making and just bad organization, bad franchise. I don't believe the Vikings will win a Super Bowl in my lifetime. Although I had high hopes that the NFL would pay it off in their fixed script like they did with New Orleans. Given that maybe Minnesota will in the future because they've had their continued problems in Minnesota with all their Somali people that are there committing fraud left and right. They have a lot of illegal immigrants there that the Immigrations and Custom Enforcement, ICE, if you will, went into Minneapolis, and 2 people ended up dead because of these individuals that are making bad decisions, disobeying law enforcement, putting themselves in harm's way, and getting killed. For what? For nothing. For just being bad human beings, it sounds like to me. But then you go back to 2020 and George Floyd and all that stuff that went on with that, and basically putting George Floyd as sainthood status in this country when he was nothing more than a common criminal, more than likely died of a drug overdose that we can never get figured out for sure. There's probably people that are in prison police officers that were imprisoned for doing their job, trying to arrest this guy. And here we are. No better. It seems like 5 to 6 years later than George Floyd incident all over in Minneapolis. Why is it happening in Minneapolis? That's the question that I always wonder. It's like, what's going on there? You don't see this happen in other big cities that are very liberal like that. I mean, there's other problems in other cities, but they're not seemingly as bad as what went on in Minneapolis the last 5 years. So, we'll see. I guess I'm probably gonna disavow myself from Minnesota in general in my sports teams there. That's fine. I can maybe find something else if I do wanna continue in the sports world and spend any time on that, spending time, money, effort. I don't know. It's kinda sad to me. But here we are, still trying. I guess the even part of the reason I even bring this up and even in this podcast is that the memoir that I put together, I look at it as sort of patriotic in that my grandfather was like the ultimate patriot, fighting in World War II and continuing to have service long after that, retiring, as a lieutenant colonel in the National Guard after having served, you know, um, in World War II and Korean War and all he did. And his efforts seem to just like brushed aside lately, where people, I'm not going to say the majority of the people, but there's just a large number of people that don't know about it, don't care about this country, are virtually anti-patriotic as far as I can tell. And I guess that's how I weave this back in to these scenarios with the NFL. NFL with a red, white, and blue emblem. They have a military flyover for the national anthem. It's just, it seems like there's just this, I guess, dichotomy of this manic personality of how the NFL even functions as it is. So I feel bad. I feel like we're losing the country. And maybe bottom line is that this is my effort to try to bring us back together and point out some of this stuff and be able to reshape things. I think I talked about that too, where in the previous chapters about service to this country that I believe everyone should serve. I think, like you look at Israel, I think when you turn, I don't know what it is, if you turn 18, that you have to join the military there. I think I think South Korea, they have that too, if I remember right, talking to um, a coworker of mine many years ago during like the World Cup. And there's a really great soccer player. And I think he had gotten a deferral from his military service in South Korea because he had helped lead his team to a certain number of victories in the World Cup, and it brought such honor to the whole country that he was given, I guess, a total deferment because he was playing in like the European soccer leagues and making a lot of money, and that was helping bring a lot of honor to South Korea. So every individual has to serve in the military in South Korea, but he was given the dispensation, so he didn't have to do that. Well, I don't know why this country can't do that to make you make it citizens swear in at 18. Let's say maybe you have a gap, and you have to spend 2 years between 18 and 26. You can get any time during that time period. Go and serve 2 years. And I put in there too that maybe it's just working in the post office. Maybe you do that. That's what you sign up for. If you don't want to go into the military, maybe that's post office is something you could do, or the Peace Corps. Work as a civil servant for 2 years. You swear into this country that you're gonna, you know, honor this country and work for this country for that time. And if it works out, maybe you stay in and complete longer, maybe a complete federal career or something like that. But I guess I just would like to see something better for this country. So, good. I guess I got way off track on this, but I think it's an important commentary. Maybe someday it'll be picked up and run forward by someone else. Take that ball, get your NFL metaphor, pick up that ball, run it downfield forward towards the goal line, if you will, of having a better, stronger country. Maybe there's hope. I don't know. Probably won't see it in my lifetime. I think the trending line has been down for several years, but it could turn around. There's always hope. You got to have hope, right? Anyway, I think I'm going to sign off there. I think I did have a couple other things that I wanted to reach out to, but a couple of recurring segments in the podcast, but we're at an hour and 10. I got to get out there and I got to get out in the rain and do some work, collect some rainwater for the desert plants I have in my yard. It's been super dry, so it's really a pleasant surprise to get some rain here mid-February. So anyway, that's it. I'm going to sign off. Happy Valentine's Day weekend. Happy Valentine's weekend. Today's not Valentine's Day. It's the 13th, January 13th, 2026. So getting off the year on the right foot. And I will end with this, be assertive, be positive, be proactive. And I add parenthetically here, be positive. I tried to be positive at the end of my little commentary. And I think you should too. You need to be positive and know this country's going to get turned around, get things back on track. And you can be part of that. I think I can be part of that. We can be positive and be that example of a patriot and get things turned around. So anyway, we don't say goodbye. We say see you later. And I like the metaphor of football for this. It's like, you take action. It's like you win the coin toss, you don't defer, you take the ball, march down the field, you march towards the goal line, and you score. Be positive. You're going to make it happen. As I sign off today, again, tip of the hat. Don't say goodbye. We say see you later and knock, and the door will be open to you. Seek and you will find. Ask and you shall be given. That's it for this podcast. More to come. The next podcast, episode 30, the halfway point. So maybe we'll see something special there. All right. Have a good weekend, everyone. Take it easy. Rest up. Rest up for the NFL Combine coming up in a couple weeks, week and a half, whatever it is. The NFL never stops. And maybe it will for me, but not anytime soon, probably. So, all right. See you next time.